The Toronto Raptors are back, and they are looking different if you watch this team play in their first preseason game against the Sacramento Kings. And yes, we're not going to overreact to preseason, the stat lines, the wins, or things along those lines, but we will react in terms of how the team looked, how the team gelled, and what the rotations are looking like. Because there's one concern I have about Gradey Dick. Yes, he got a lot of minutes at the end of this game, but didn't get subbed until the third quarter, so we'll discuss whether or not he'll actually be in the team's rotation. But other than that, this was a game to get excited about if you're a Toronto Raptors fan. I mean, this squad, yes, it's been talked about this entire summer. Media Day was the main focus of discussion. That ball is going to be humming in the Toronto Raptors offense for this upcoming season. Darko Rajakovic wants to see the basketball get swung around. He doesn't want a guy like Pascal Siakam, obviously Fred VanVleet's on his way out, to put the offense completely on their back and sort of carry our way through. Even if mistakes are made and, the Toronto Raptors are still sort of getting used to this system, there were moments in this game where things looked a little bit ugly. The extra pass might have been ended up going to a Sacramento Kings player rather than a Toronto Raptors player, but that's all working out the kinks in a, preseason game where the outcome doesn't matter, but the on-court product is what we want to react to, what we want to see. So lots of positives we're going to dive into this video. And basically, you can look at the stat line and Scotty Barnes, OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam all played roughly about 20 minutes in this one. Pirtle, Dennis Schroeder, 17. He dealt with some foul trouble earlier, along with Gary Trent Jr. And all 5-6 of those guys that were the lead players in terms of the Raptors rotation, they all looked really, really solid. And Schroeder looks fast. He's obviously the new acquisition for the Toronto Raptors, as he's quick, he's nimble, definitely had a few fouls early that were a bit silly, especially in a game that would have mattered, right? It would have been unfortunate to see him pulled that early on in the game, because ideally Schroeder's going to be getting 30 to 35 minutes, potentially more on any given night. But, Schroeder, I really liked what we saw in his first sort of suiting in a Toronto Raptors uniform. So I liked his quickness. I liked his defense. I liked the way he slashed. A couple weird turnovers here and there, but I like the pace he brings to the game. But one guy that impressed right from the jump, and it's the player that Raptors fans seem to be most excited about coming into this year, it's Scotty Barnes. And Scotty Barnes, right, started off this game posting up, dominating down low, getting to the rim, took a couple threes as well early on. The jumper did look a little bit quicker than it did last season, but had 50 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists in this one, made a couple of nice dimes. And again, we're not reacting. I'm not overreacting to anything that's in the preseason or anything along those lines, but from what I saw with Scotty Barnes, he looked more aggressive. The jumper did look a little bit quicker, looked a little bit more confident hoisting it up, missed his couple of threes, so then he didn't really take much in the later stints of this game. But basically, Scotty Barnes really we couldn't have asked for a better game, in terms of Scotty Barnes getting things going in his first preseason game into his third season, where we usually see young star players break out, take that next step, take that next leap. So encouraging game there for Scotty Barnes. Again, OG Anunoby 6 of 7 from the field, 14 points. We know what we're getting out of OG Anunoby. Elite defense, knocking down the shots. Looked confident. Hit a couple tough jumpers in this one as well. So that's a great thing to see. Gary Trent Jr. coming off the bench as well. There was question marks about how he would perform off the bench, and actually got the most minutes in this game out of any Toronto Raptor, and was definitely our best scorer. 22 points in this one, 7 of 12 from the field, 3 of 6 from the three-point line. Knocking down his shots, knocking down his threes. Great thing to see, and came into the game early as well. Schroeder started, but got pulled early. I guess foul trouble is a part of that as well. But Gary Trent Jr. got a lot of run and looked comfortable coming off the bench. Pirtle missed a couple bunnies down low, but 2 of 4 from the field. Again, I'm not too worried about Pirtle. We know what we're going to get from him in any given game, but had 4 turnovers, and Rajakovic talked about how Pirtle's going to have the offense run through him a little bit more, and only 2 assists, 4 turnovers. Again, question marks there, but getting the feel for everything. But the one guy I do want to discuss, because he's been the main topic of discussion, he's been the main guy people have been looking at over the course of the offseason, it's Pascal Siakam, in terms of his future with the Toronto Raptors, how his sort of play will look. There's been a lot of talk about lack of selfishness, and obviously he was one of the lead shot takers on the Toronto Raptors for this past year. But in this game, didn't take a lot of shots, missed 2 threes, but 3 of 6 from the field, had a couple nice spins. Again, it's preseason, so we don't want to expect, Pascal to be going all out, going ham in this one single game, especially where he's a champ, all-star, all-NBA guy. So makes sense. 8 points, 4 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, but wasn't forcing the action whatsoever. And given all of the sort of talk we heard over the course of the offseason, I've seen a lot of people sort of say, hey, This is great news. This is great. We don't have to rely on Pascal Siakam to run isolations in the mid post every second possession if the Raptors offense sort of goes into the toilet for a couple of these turns, couple of these possessions, right? Pascal Siakam seemed in this game to let the game come to him, facilitate for his teammates, saw Gary going, saw OG going, saw Scotty going, said, hey, run with that. I don't need to insert my will into this game if other players are sort of getting their games rolling. So that's a positive to see. Again, it could be just a product of preseason. Pascal's just taking it a little bit easy, or it could be him really buying into Darko's system. And apparently he's asking a lot of questions to Darko, asking a lot of questions to new head coaching staff. So seems like he's bought in, wants to win, and the Toronto Raptors faced a good Sacramento Kings team. Again, in the first half, they were having that matchup, against the actual Kings players, the Kings team. In the second half, they threw most of their bench while the Raptors played their third quarter with their starters, but, they did a really good job. The Kings threw some punches. They were a great squad. They were third in the Western Conference last season and improved over the course of the offseason. But the Raptors hung in there when shots weren't really working. They missed a few bunnies. They missed a few of these open looks, and they fought their way back, and they got the win at halftime, which was a positive there to see for this Raptors team. So that was a good thing to see. Our top six, I don't think, has ever really been a question mark for the Toronto Raptors over the past year or two, even though there have been some underwhelming nights from certain players and things. But I think everyone agreed that the top six of the Toronto Raptors is pretty solid. But the question mark, and it's, the issue with the Toronto Raptors, especially last year, is what the heck is happening with the bench? Well, the bench in this one looked 180 from what we saw last season. Raptors were very low, if not last, in terms of bench scoring for the NBA last year. But the bench in this one looked fired up, looked ready to go. Right, Rajakovic had these guys in early, had some quick subs. It felt like I don't even know what to call it, but a little bit hockey-like. Subs are coming in and out. Different players are going back in, and basically, Jalen McDaniels particularly really impressed me. 11 points, 4 or 5 from the field. Knocked down his 3, drove the lane, played some really solid defense. He looked good. Chris Boucher out there in a full bodysuit was out there balling out 11 points, hustling out there 6 rebounds. The stats look good from 2 of those guys. Obviously, Gary off the bench, we discussed him. Right, and from what we saw of Gradey Dick, looked nice. Thaddeus Young was doing some Thaddeus Young things out there, but Malachi Flynn also 20 minutes in this game, and unfortunately, he's the one guy in this game that disappointed me, to say the least. I'm always rooting for the smaller guards, being a smaller guard myself, right? I want to see Malachi Flynn have success. He's a guy that's shown an ability to work the pick and roll, to sort of facilitate with guys like Kem Birch during his rookie season and things along those lines, but he hasn't been able to knock down his threes. In the opportunities Nick Nurse gave him last year, he wasn't able to sort of run with it and take over those opportunities, even though he has had flashes of greatness for this Toronto Raptors team, but in this one game particularly, didn't show a lot, at least to me out there on the court. Dribbling a lot, the defense, obviously Davion Mitchell is an absolute hound, but, Malachi Flynn himself, 5 points, knocked down 1 3, 5 points, 5 assists, 5 rebounds. The facilitating is good, the facilitating is solid, but looked a little bit just out of place from what the rest of the Toronto Raptors were doing. Defensively, there's a few boards taken over the top of them, had 3 turnovers in the game. Again, I don't want to bash on Malachi Flynn for one preseason game, not overreacting to any good stat lines, bad stat lines, good performances, bad performances, but just from the eye test, didn't see like a game-changing Malachi Flynn, at least in game 1 of preseason. Don't want to write him off completely, obviously. It's one game of preseason, but the point guard position is sort of opened up for the Toronto Raptors. Marquise Noel is talking about how he wants to be the greatest Toronto Raptor of all time. He got some minutes, late in this game, 8 minutes, 0 of 2 from the field. Didn't show a lot, a couple turnovers, an assist. He's fun to watch out there with the size and things. He's a quick, shifty guard, and had one brutal sort of floater layup there in the middle of the paint. But also a guy like Jeff Doughton. I mean, he didn't get to see the court at any point in this game, so that's not looking good in terms of his potential future with the Toronto Raptors. And personally, I think he's the guy that could be our most reliable backup point guard. So I think that's kind of crazy, kind of wild. But let me know what you guys think about that whole point guard situation. But I want to talk about Gradey Dick, because one thing that Darko Rajakovic promised, he discussed, he said, the Toronto Raptors, he likes to run 10 deep, potentially more on any given night. And we did see guys like Thaddeus Young, who's put in the doghouse at the end of last year, get 15 minutes, Boucher 20, McDaniels 15. And this isn't garbage time for those players, right? Gay, Obviously, Marquise Noel, Freeman, those players got the garbage time minutes. So that's why their minutes are a little bit skewed. But the rest of the players, rest of the team, got a lot of run during the meaningful meat of the Toronto Raptors rotation this one. But the one player that didn't really, I sort of mentioned at the beginning of this video, it's in the title, it's in the thumbnail, it's Gradey Dick. He got 14 minutes in this game, but it all came at the end. It didn't seem like he didn't play the first half. He didn't play most of the third. So what's happening with Gradey Dick? Is he in our rotation or not? Because he came out in this game, he had a double dribble on a possession, but hit a nice crispy midi, did the exact same action the possession after, hit another crispy midi. Raptors fans are hyped. The jumper's looking fluid. Missed a few threes here, when he was subbed into the game, but Gradey Dick, 2 of 6 from the field, 1 of 4 from the three-point line. The jumper looks fluid. I like his confidence in terms of shooting that basketball. A couple steals, look engaged. He didn't look like Matt Thomas-esque as just a player that's only a three-point shooter. He made some good reads, made some good passes. I'm just excited about Gradey Dick, the basketball player. Forget his name, forget he's a lottery pick. I think he just fits what the Toronto Raptors are doing. But the fact that he wasn't in the rotation, and Otto Porter Jr. is still out, who's a guy, when healthy, will be in the Toronto Raptors rotation. A guy like Precious Achiuwa is out. I know they don't play similar positions, but there's minutes that's going to have to be had for Precious Achiuwa there as well. Is Gradey Dick going to be in the Toronto Raptors rotation? And personally, given his skill set, given the potential development of a rookie that was drafted in the lottery, all these types of things, to have him on the outside looking in of the Toronto Raptors rotation, it's tough. It's a tough sort of situation. There's obviously going to be an odd man out. You can't play like 13 deep on any given night, but I don't know. Gradey Dick is a player I think it'd be a mistake to sort of leave on the bench for not only the future of your team, but he also fulfills a need for this Raptors squad. So definitely keep an eye on that for the rest of the preseason. See if he's actually in the meaningful minutes rotation. But let me know what you guys think, because I think he's also a good fit for more star caliber players to be around, because he spaces the floor, right? He can catch and shoot. He can also pass. He can do a lot of things out there on the court. So I don't want to see Gradey Dick buried on the bench. But let me know what you guys think about this Toronto Raptors game 1 of the preseason. Next game's coming around pretty soon. Also going to have some announcements regarding Fantasy League. It's coming back. Make sure you're a channel member if you want to get involved with that there. And plans for streams, plans for stuff, coming up for this season. But stay tuned to the Raptors Digest. Subscribe if you haven't already. And if you guys want to see some of the latest news on the Toronto Raptors, click this video right here. Cheers.